Welcome to Roofing and Solar, What Facility Owners and Contractors Need to Know. I'm Tim Montague, your host. I am the host and creator of the Clean Power Hour podcast. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today on the Clean Power Hour, Roofing and Solar, What Facility Owners and Contractors Need to Know. Today we have two very special and well-educated guests, Daniel Salmon with Douglas Colony, a major roofing and solar contractor in the Denver area, and Peter Bonavita with Sika, a leading roofing products manufacturer and the maker of Solar Roof, which is a roofing integrated solar racking product. I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves, and I'm just getting Daniel on deck here. But today we are trying to offer our audience of contractors and facility owners expert advice and information, and getting all your questions answered about how commercial rooftop solar works for your facility. What are the pros and cons of rooftop solar? How does it benefit facility owners? And with that, I want to welcome Daniel Salmon, who is going to introduce himself, and then we'll let Peter Bonavita also introduce himself, and then we'll get into a brief presentation from Daniel. Welcome, Daniel.
Awesome. Glad to be here, Tim. Thank you for having me. Like Tim said, I'm Daniel Salmon. I work for Douglas Colony Group. We're based out of Denver. However, we have a Colorado Springs and Greeley, Colorado office. So we have a pretty wide spread there. We also do the region as well. So I've been in solar for 6 years now. So started out in residential, switched over to commercial in 2021. So that transition was major, going from B to B or B to C to B to B. So that really is what lights me up. So glad to be here. Glad to be talking about rooftop C&I.
Thank you. And Peter Bonavita with Sika. Welcome to the webinar.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Peter Bonavita. I'm the General Manager of Sarnafil Services. Work directly for Sika Roofing Division, subject matter expert for solar, and looking forward to our discussion here. Looks like Daniel's going to start it, and I guess I'll finish towards the end of it.
Awesome. All right, Daniel, well, take it away. Tell us a little bit about Douglas Colony and your perspectives on rooftop solar.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so Douglas Colony is a major subcontractor, like I said, in the Denver area. We have many scopes of work that we do. Solar is one division. However, we do frame CAD, we do waterproofing, new roofs, re-roofing, the whole gambit. So couple notable projects that we've done. We're doing Denver Botanic Gardens right now. We've done stuff at NREL, as well as the Air Force Academy. So pretty extensive portfolio there. We've been in solar for 17 years. So we like to think that we know what we're doing. So so this is a really just setting the table here. Really geared towards general contractors, owners, developers, and interested parties that are unfamiliar with rooftop solar, kind of how the process works, what's design like, what are the incentives, things like that. So I'll be going over most of those high points there. So so one of the first questions is what is solar PV? And why is it becoming a bigger thing in commercial and industrial? So I think to understand this question, it's really important to know, since the passing of the IRA in August of last year, there have been 51 companies that have committed to building factories, here in the U.S., onshoring, doing, all they can from, soup to nuts as far as, manufacturing solar. So this is noteworthy because, over $100 billion of investment money has gone into this. So where it wasn't as advantageous in the past, you see this, floodgate just open up because of this new money that's coming in. So a lot more interest in this. So CNI solar is the deployment and integration of all these of solar systems is going to explode. So going into the process itself, a developer or an owner that doesn't really know anything about solar, might ask, what does it take to go solar? What is my roof in good enough condition? Do I have space on my roof? Or, what's the best roof for solar? Things like this. What are the incentives? And these are all very valid questions. And, one I would be, very surprised if owners didn't ask. So I definitely want to answer some of those questions for you. So really, there's something called a 10-year rule. So if you have an existing building, it's really, a good rule of thumb is 10 years. If your roof is 10 years old or younger, then it's okay to put solar on there. Really, this is because of the length of how long solar panels can actually last. This is highly important because actually tearing off, you install a major system, you have to tear it off and do a re-roof 10 years later. That's quite costly. So here at Douglas Colony, we do that, and we do re-roofing as well. So actually integrating these two together it's a seamless transition. So we deal with owners and GCs all the time that really want to do double dip on that. So that's as far as like roof condition goes, that's a good rule of thumb to use. Just a number I do want to throw out there. A lot of people talk about ballasted systems and flat roof solar. It's really noteworthy that 5 PSF is kind of the mid range as far as weight on the roof itself. You're going to have live loads and dead loads there. So it's really important to understand the structural integrity of the roof. We always recommend having a cover board for underneath the roofing membrane. So if it's a flat roof TPO or PVC like Sika Sarnafil, these are these are considerations you might want to have when thinking about solar. So it's not just about the solar itself; it's about the building as a whole. So considering the roof is a highly important part. So really, best roofs for solar. They talk about azimuth in solar, basically orientation of the panels per the latitude. So you want to have your panels facing south, ideally, away from the parapets. There's a huge wind load that comes off the parapets. So and less shading. Obviously, this makes sense for energy production here. So this is quite important. When really thinking about design, where should we place the panels? But it's highly important that we understand, okay, where are these going to actually go? Because if you've ever been on a commercial rooftop, you know that there's HVACs, you got RTUs, you got skylights, you got soiling vents, you got conduit. There's all these. It's a maze of things, and it's sort of like a puzzle. So whenever you do pre-construction design, it's super important to understand, okay, where does it stand right now? Is the roof structurally sound, and where can we actually place the solar such that we can offset the electric bill? So this is one of the most fun parts of my job is actually doing pre-construction solar design, because it is like a puzzle. It's a ton of fun. So and Peter and I have collaborated on that a bit too. So it's a ton of fun here. So yeah, I mentioned shading. Can the roof actually handle the weight of solar? So there's several different types of systems here. So you can have attached, rooftop attached, so fully adhered, penetrations. I call them features, but a lot of owners like to think about it as a penetration. Really in areas where there's high wind loads like Boulder, Colorado. It's 165. So pretty much every single rooftop solar installation is anchored to the roof deck itself. So it's not totally necessary. I like to do a lot of fully ballasted systems. So that can be an option. It just depends on some of the parameters of where you are and what applications you're using it for. So as far as mounting goes, those are kind of typical options. Fully ballasted, hybrid, so ballasted and attached, or fully attached. So with that, I kind of wanted to just because I know we have limited time here. I do want to transition and talk a bit about some of the things that you should be thinking about, as an owner, as a developer, in your respective markets. Where or what do you need to comply with? What standards are there in your city, in your state, that are pertinent to you in terms of actually transitioning to solar or re-roofing? So here in Denver, we have something called the Green Buildings Ordinance. And it's basically an ordinance that was passed to prevent heat islanding. So to prevent heat actually going off the buildings. And a few ways that the city actually has tried to get business owners to do that is you can buy into a fund, which dips into renewable grid. You can put a pool on your roof. You can have a green roof. You can put on a white TPO vapor barrier roof. You can put on PV solar. These are all options for that ordinance. So it's highly important to know. Okay, well, that is kind of an aggressive policy or progressive or however you want to frame it. But if you live in a place that there's that sort of legislation that's being pushed forward, it's important to know these things. Another thing is the Energize Denver program. This is a program that's essentially a stair-step model transitioning from old heat boilers to totally electric. So they actually measure this using electric utility index. So you have to have a certain number or a certain threshold to be under in order to comply with that. So there might be a Energize Denver program in your respective market. So it's important that you can comply with that. So for example, by 2027, all heat boilers have to be transitioned to electric heat pumps. So I'm working on a deal right now. That's the client has a boiler from 1964, and then they really need to switch in the next few months. And so this is just a consideration when switching to solar. So
I do have one question.
Sure.
When you think about the ITC, we have a very generous investment tax credit on solar in the United States now. That's 30%. And there are additional incentives for example, low and middle income, energy communities, and, for example, using made in America products. But when you think about leveraging the ITC to its maximum and combining the roofing and the solar project, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, the first part of that is certainly wrapping it all into one project. So here at Douglas Colony, we're a major roofing company, so we would go in, actually re-roof, then do the solar. That's actually what we're doing at the Denver Botanic Gardens right now. So as far as leveraging the ITC to accommodate for the roof as well as solar, and I want to get to some other incentives here in a second, is the square footage. If it's wherever the square footage of the solar goes, within that new roof, if it's wrapped into one project, the square footage of where that is, the cost of that is actually going to be eligible for the ITC because it's considered part of the roof. So
the caveat there, I think, Daniel, is that you can't just do any old type of solar. If you want to use the ITC on the solar and the roofing, you need to do some form of attached solar or integrated solar, like the like the Sarnafil product that Peter's going to be introducing us to today. But a any fully attached solar array would qualify for the ITC. The caveat here is that I am not a tax professional. Our guests today on the webinar are not tax professionals, and you have to consult with a qualified tax professional on these matters. But in any case, just know that you can combine roofing and solar into a single expense and take the ITC on that. We also have a question from Ian. Do you tie in energy audits into commercial solar projects? Do you want to address that, Daniel?
Absolutely. So we work with a couple energy auditing groups here in Denver, and it's very thorough. So we do a lot of new construction, multifamily, things like that. And so, we go to the GC hires, the energy auditing company, basically doing the entire, multifamily building, like a 50 unit apartment complex. Having an energy audit done, knowing exactly what the loads are going to be, will allow you to, whenever you go to interconnect, actually, maximize the size of the system.
And I would just comment that it's always important to reduce the energy load of your facility before solarizing it if you can.
Absolutely.
Certainly a lighting upgrade to LED lighting, increasing the insulation. So reducing the amount of load on the facility to the extent possible. We call energy efficiency negawatts. It is the lowest hanging fruit, generally speaking. And then at a high level, you could reduce your electric bill, for example, 50 to 75% with a solar array on your facility. You will never reduce your bill 100% because you're grid tied and the solar is only producing energy during the day. So presumably the facility will be using electricity in the off hours, and you've got to pay for that grid connection. But you can reduce your bill by up to 75% with rooftop solar, which is why it is a thing. Sunlight is free, and once you own the technology to collect that sunlight and convert it to electricity, you can greatly reduce your electric bill. And, in the last 12 months, electricity prices have gone up all over the United States and internationally, of course. But here in the U.S., we've seen 10 to 25% increases in the price of electricity. And so solar is a great hedge against inflation.
Yeah. And I think that dovetails, quite well into a conversation just about incentives. Like you said, if it's, building integrated, like the roof and the solar, it's, you're obviously going to get a bigger tax credit for that. The ITC is 30%. The domestic content tax credit is 10%. So, and there's parameters on the IRS website about that. Accelerated depreciation, enterprise zones, whatever, local utility you're using, they'll have their own. So, whenever you own that solar asset on your rooftop, how much money are you actually going to be, how much revenue are you going to be generating? And there's other things as well. So, those energy zones that Tim was mentioning, nonprofits can even have solar with a direct pay method. So that's opening up, like I said, the floodgates to the IRA has just opened it up to so many possibilities. So, and there's new things coming out still. So,
let me make a couple comments there, Daniel, about third-party owned real estate. Historically, we in the solar industry, I come from the EPC side of the solar industry, the installer side. We were looking for owner-occupied facilities for the most part, but now there are companies and platforms like Energy 311 that will allow a multifamily building owner to become the utility for their tenants, or a warehouse owner who has tenants that are sub-metered. In commercial real estate, it is the tenants who are paying the electric bill. And so there was a lack of an incentive for the facility owner to upgrade the facility with a solar array, but that has changed. So take note, if you own a commercial facility and have non-owner occupants, solar can be a thing for you. And then what Daniel was just saying too about the ITC for nonprofits. Historically, nonprofits did not benefit from the ITC because they don't pay taxes. You have to have a tax liability in order to take the investment tax credit. Well, now you can get something called direct pay, which is just a cash incentive from the federal government. Or you can transfer a credit. So if you're a for-profit company and because of your corporate structure cannot benefit from the tax incentive, you can transfer that. In other words, sell that incentive from your solar project to some other party. We call this transferability. So the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 has been a game changer for the solar industry, including the roofing and solar industry.
Yeah, it's I like to say we live in a golden age of solar right now, and it's a super fun time to be in the industry. In fact, actually, the RE Plus, it's a major solar convention that actually just happened. Somebody told me they're a little bit older. They said, "I wish I was your age whenever I was got into this industry," because they were so excited about where it's going. And yeah, with all these incentives, it's kind of a no brainer. If you stack all these on top of each other. Another one is, if you have a rural business or an agricultural business, you can apply for the REAP grant, REAP, Rural Energy Agricultural Program. That's 50%. So, and you can, so that's a grant program. You can stack the tax credits on top of that too. So you'd have to go on the USDA website to look at the map if you would qualify for that program. But another a little known thing that is very helpful. So yeah. So moving on, a lot of owners really would probably want to know, okay, what's the length and cost of project development? So what all is involved? From soup to nuts. How does this work? We talked about the technical side of the roof and installation part of it. We talked about incentives, but whenever an owner approaches me or a GC and they say, "Hey, we want solar on this building," what you got? Basically, this is where the project intake form comes in. So, we'll need to know things like, okay, yeah, what's the quality of the roof? What's it made out of? How old is it? How high are the parapets? All the plan sets that, from architectural to structural to electrical, we need to know all that information so that we can build the most efficient system as possible. So that process starts out with us understanding the state of the building itself. So whether it's a barrel roof, it's a flat, PVC roof, gabled roof, standing seam, all these are different types of installations and take different design considerations. So taking that in, doing a whole pre-construction analysis, kind of like an energy audit in a way, but just understanding where the solar is going to be deployed. So once we have that understanding, we'll have engineering and actually do load calculations based on those assumptions that we make. Have an estimate put together and then put in our proposals. So from there, to actually move forward with the solar project itself, some noteworthy things as far as project development goes. As far as timetable, it's commercial is a lot different than residential. So residential, they can throw up a few panels in a day or two. With commercial, there's a lot of, and not only are there more panels that you would have to install, there's the length of the permitting process, interconnecting. These are things that really you need to consider whenever actually planning on if you're developing a multifamily unit or something of the like. It's really important to know those sorts of timetables within your respective markets. So here in Denver, it's about 4 to 6 weeks. So for interconnection and permitting. So if on project timelines, which I know a lot of GCs, and they are very, they like to have the trains run on time. So it's good to know these sorts of things, especially how many man days it's going to take for install. So of course, if it's snowing, you can't be installing rooftop solar. If it's raining, lightning, things like that, crews just can't work. So these are sort of things that need to be really considered whenever talking about the length of the project and how do you get to commissioning the project and when it turns on. So as far as cost goes, this is really actually pretty transparent on SIA's website. They post a lot of average price per watt for C&I solar. There's getting different numbers of or different layouts. It can definitely change the overall cost. So considering these things is really important, especially working with subject matter experts that know how to do it all. So from estimating to installation of the system. So okay, what about after the solar system is installed? A lot of people talk about O&M or operations and monitoring. So with a lot of solar inverters out there today, most of them, I would say, in the C&I space, they look for or they have a subscription service usually. So that can be through Cat5 cable or Wi-Fi. So you can actually monitor on a module level, how your system is performing. So the efficiency of the system. So this is really important for bigger companies like for example Google. We did the Google campus in Boulder. Having monitoring is super important to their ESG goals. So it's there's different reasons for O&M. The operation side is if anything goes down, we'll know about it and be able to respond appropriately. So that's from soup to nuts, from the infancy of the idea, hey, I might want to go solar, to maintaining a sustainable asset is vitally important to any owner that would be doing solar. So like I was mentioning, integrating solar with the roof it's done in one big package is a very ideal thing to do. If you have an existing structure, it's really a no-brainer with all the incentives as well as what you can take advantage of right now. So I really appreciate your time there, Tim. And from there we'll toss it over to Peter.
Excellent. Peter, if you would just unmute yourself.
Okay, very good. Well, sorry about this mix-up here, but just a little bit more information about Sika Sarnafil. Sika Sarnafil is almost 65-year-old PVC manufacturer in the United States, based in the Boston, Massachusetts area. We've been involved in solar indirectly for probably the last 35 plus years. We had sold some bulk rolls of our membrane where a company had a proprietary process where they laminated amorphous thin film to the top of our membrane, and that was the module at that time. So you had like a 10-foot wide by 40-foot module, believe it or not, and it had a wiring harness, and you pulled the wires through the insulation, and you plugged and played, and hot air welded it to the field. So we've been involved for a long time. Now we developed the SSM 1 and now the reiteration of 2. Sika Solar Mount is what SSM stands for, and we co-developed this with a German company that morphed. They had a solar EPC division, and they morphed out of a very large roofing company called Polendock, if anybody's familiar with any roofing in Germany. So we brought the product over here about 8 years ago. The first iteration was a 15-degree fixed tilt with a polypropylene mount. It had rails, and then the solar was mounted on top of the rails. And I wish we can get this video up because the picture says 1,000 words. So We came up with the SSM2. It took us several years through testing with Factory Mutual. We're the only Factory Mutual 4478 test standard approved product in the United States at this time. There are a couple others going through that testing, but it's a very rigorous test standard that tests the roofing system and the modules and the racking system and uh, the wiring. It includes everything from a combustibility perspective, from a wind uplift perspective, from hail testing and gravity load tests, and of course, all the modules have to meet the IEC requirements that that for the codes throughout the United States anyway. So this product was finally came. This project finally came to fruition at the probably end of a year ago. Okay, and so we're the only one that, and just if for the people that don't know what Factory Mutual is, they're a very large insurance company that has material testing labs. So they're seen as the gold standard of third-party testing for roof systems and now solar as well. And of course, you have underwriters laboratories that we have those UL approvals too for 2170 and 1730. I hope I said that right. It's been a while since I said that one. And anyways, we have UL and Factory Mutual approval for our product. The major benefits of our product is that it is attached directly to our field membrane with the same seaming technologies that we utilize for the overlap of our membrane seams. So it's hot air welded. And for those of you that know the roofing business and may not know it, I always refer to it as a pretty large blow dryer, if you will. Creates heat. There's a dam on the backside of it, keeps the heat in the seam. You have a machine that has a roller about 1.5 to 2 inches wide, and you have weight on it, and it moves at a certain speed, and that fuses your membranes together to become one monolithic sheet. So the significant linchpin here is the Sika click. So the Sika Solar Mount 2 basically has a very few components, and it's easy to install. It's now a 7-degree fixed tilt steel mount. It has base pads made out of our same uh, formulation as a roof membrane that snap into the base. So it requires no slip sheets. Those of you that know the solar business, all manufacturers have a PV policy, and they all require you to have a slip sheet between the base of any solar components and the interface of the membrane. So that's slip sheets. The product requires no weight at all. There are rails, bottom rail and the top rail. They're short rails, and there is 2 clicks per mount that snap into the base, are fastened to the base. There's no penetrations through the roof system, and then the welding tab of the click is hot air welded to the roof system. Very, very easy to install. There's, call it 6 or 8 pieces. You got 2 bolts and 2 nuts to help that keep the rails on. So, and then you got the mount, then you got the clicks, and you end up with like 6 to 8 really real components to install with this product. Other major benefits of it. One of them Tim had mentioned is that it's seen as it's a product that's attached to the roof. Again, no penetrations. However, now you have the solar array and the roof system seen in the eyes of the IRS as an integrated solar system as one component. And again, we are not experts in tax advice, but there are people out there, working with their tax experts to monetize the roof cost, and that is a major benefit for utilizing a product like this. Other major benefits are fully loaded with the modules on top of it and all the components of the racking system. It's 3.5 pounds. So, and I've seen it, the max we've seen it is 3.6 pounds. So call it 3.6 pounds max, fully loaded with the module on it per square foot. As Daniel alluded to in the past, there are certain types of loads on the roof. Ballasted racking system, which was predominantly used in the early days of the solar installations, because it was relatively cost effective. However, you have lots of ballast. You're putting a lot more dead load on your building, and in snow country areas, you have to be cognizant of the snow loads. And a lot of times, those fully ballasted racking systems were deemed ineligible because the roof system and the structure of that structural components could not support that weight. So, and Daniel also mentioned attached systems. So what happens is in the perimeter and the corners where most of your ballast is, you're up in this probably 7+ pounds per square foot there. That's where the attachment methods came in so that they can lighten the load and utilize a ballasted racking system. With this product, we have no penetrations. Anytime in a roofing business you have a penetration, you have a potential for a leak.
Peter, I have a question. How exactly, there's some form of a metal attachment that the racking is attaching to. How is that installed? Are you suggesting that that's installed in the factory to the roofing material?
No, there's no attachment for the main component of the attachment. Maybe if you, I don't know if they're, stop right there. See that picture up top? That's the Sika click. That is fastened. See where his knuckles are? That's fastened into the base of the metal rack mount. And then you use a hot air weld to attach to the roofing. There are no penetrations through the roof membrane at all.
So all of this is post-install, is that right? You're installing the membrane and then you're installing the racking?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's all attached in situ. We provide a layout with that and measurements and stuff. And basically what happens is you snap some lines, you put the mounts together, you follow the lines, and from the row spacing perspective, and that's, you hot air weld it. That's the last component of the SSM2 to complete the installation of the Sika solar mount racking system. And then on top of that, the EPCs or the electricians will come in and attach the module, and of course do all the wiring.
Okay, so it's at the low end of the module, so to speak, that the click resides, and then so the module.
Low end of the racking system.
It's kind of difficult to understand what exactly, when you guys talk about clicks, what that is, because that is a very generic expression. But let's just recap in general what this system is. It's a 7-degree south-facing or east-west, right? It's both and, yes. Correct? But the point of attachment is
that click, that Sika click that you see in the center of the mount. There's one on each side of the mount. I really apologize that we can't get this thing loaded, but I can hopefully get it to you, and maybe you can put it on your website.
Sure, no worries. And I'm just curious, Peter, what is the adoption of this product like? I know that you've iterated a couple different versions of the product, but what markets and if you can speak to any quantities or numbers.
Yeah, so from we can talk about some uplift perspective where because it's been tested through Factory Mutual. or the fact that the product is designed for high wind speed areas as well. They're on, let's say if you're down in Florida, you can do this, but if you're down in Florida on a 60-foot high building, and we would have to perform our calculations to make sure that the PSF wind uplift doesn't exceed our testing of that particular. Again, the linchpin is the Sika click. So you can install this down in the Gulf area. You can install it in the interior of the country. You can install it on the coastlines. Again, if it's 60 feet and higher, then those, it may not be useful in that particular area. But if you have a 20, 40-foot building, for the most part, throughout the United States, which most buildings are at least at that height level, that you have an opportunity to install this roof system. I mean, this racking system. And another key component that I haven't really got to yet is the fact that the SSM2 is included in our roof system warranty. No one else has any racking system included in their roof system warranty in the United States. So it's another major benefit. There's none of this going on from an EPC perspective and the roofing guys. So it's really is innovative in that perspective. And of course, again, a lot of tax people think that you can monetize your roof costs because of the use of it as well.
And then we have a comment from your colleague, Alan, who says it can be attached to a membrane that's been installed in the field for 5 to 10 years. So if you have remind me, what is the chemistry of the roof?
The roof membrane is PVC.
PVC, right. So if you have a PVC roof, you can apply this racking system as a retrofit, right?
It only works with Sarnafil material.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned briefly, all manufacturers have their PV policies, and most of them say that if your roof system is up to 5 years old, right, because you have to put a number on it, right, then it's eligible to have the product installed on it. Can we install it on a 6 and 7 year old roof? Sure, we could. We just have to have an inspection before that, make sure everything's all fine and dandy. Because again, you want your assets, both roofing asset and solar asset, to line up in from a life cycle cost analysis perspective as well. So it's very important in that process.
We've got 7 minutes left. We're going to do a hard stop at the top of the hour. Well, between the three of us, Daniel, Peter, and I have probably 60 years of relevant experience. And so we've dealt with all kinds of roofs. The greatest challenge, I guess I would throw this out to both of our panelists. The greatest challenge in commercial rooftop solar is that 10-year rule, right? That you're hitting a roof that is older than 10 years and can most likely, therefore, not be solarized right out of the gate. You have to, because the solar is going to be there for 20 plus years. What are your comments about that scenario? Because that would open up, if we could crack this nut, so to speak, and figure out ways of solarizing a 15-year-old roof, for example, that would be extremely helpful to the industry, I think.
Yeah, that would be very difficult. Again, the roof system is your foundation for the solar system, and you want both of those assets to line up. In the old, I call them the old days, the Wild Wild West, when we first got into solar 25 something plus years ago, right, Tim? There was people putting solar arrays on top of like 15-year-old and 20-year-old roofs, and it's a very expensive endeavor to then go back and remove the solar, de-energize it, remove the solar, and then install a new roof system. So it creates a logistical nightmare. And of course, if those owners had power purchase agreements, they were still paying for power that wasn't even being generated on that roof. So a lot of I would say a couple big box guys really learned the hard way that, you know what, the best time to put solar on is if it's a new construction or you're doing a re-roofing project. And again, if you're within 5 years, most manufacturers, I'm telling you, ask them, their PV policy will state that. Again, it's not a hard stop at 5 years, but you know, can you go up to 6 or 7? Sure, but you're really pushing the limit at 10, and I think you're over the cliff at 15.
Understood. Daniel, I don't know, in Colorado, in your market there, where there is a very high snow load, I would just, caution our architects and general contractors who are working with architects that you have to account for the additional load of a solar array, which is, as Peter and Daniel pointed out, is going to add a few pounds per square foot. Not a lot, but 3 to 4 pounds per square foot. I mean, if you do a ballasted system, it's going to be probably closer to 6 pounds per square foot. And that is an advantage of the Sika product, is that you have a lower pounds per square foot. And that's true of attached systems in general. So Sika is one way to crack that nut. You can also just do a fully attached system, and there's all kinds of attachments for all different roofing types. So if you're listening to this and you're concerned about how to solve that problem, the load problem, the mechanical load problem, going attached is the way to make a solar array lighter, so to speak.
Right.
Absolutely.
And, one word that Peter used that actually stood out to me was innovation. And Sika's been, around forever. So they've done their fair share of innovating. But, that's also where we have synergy. We like to implement innovative technologies that, can endure, super high wind loads, super high snow loads, things like that. We like to get creative about, approaching the project and, seeing if it's or finding a way to actually make the project go.
Well, in our last couple of minutes, I just want to remind our audience that you will get a recording of this in your email in a couple of days. So please feel free to share that with your colleagues and customers. It is still very early days in the solar industry. I recently interviewed a gentleman named Mike Hall, who started a major EPC or commercial contractor in 2002. In 2002, we were doing 1 megawatt a year in the United States. We're now doing 30,000 megawatts or 30 gigawatts a year. So we've had a 30,000-fold increase in the solar industry in the last 21 years. But we're just at the bottom of the S-curve, and we're going vertical. The solar industry is going to double between now and 2030. And that is because of the cost adoption curve, right? The price of the technology continues to fall. And, of course, society is trying to meet environmental goals. We're trying to reduce our carbon footprint. Many states, over 100 cities and states, have goals of reaching net zero. Many of these are now by 2035, 2040, 2045. So it's really game on in the solar industry. If you have not considered solarizing your facility or becoming more adept at working with solar contractors on whatever projects you're working on, if you're a general contractor, please work with your owners, work with your architects, and consider going solar. And as Daniel rightly pointed out, there are local incentives in addition to the federal incentives. So every jurisdiction, every city, state, and region has different incentives. We have very generous federal incentives and then very good state incentives in a handful of states. Not in every state, but in about 15 to 20 states, there are good incentives. Colorado, of course, being one of them. California is more about storage now. That market is so mature. Their solar incentives are fading, and they're getting more into batteries. Illinois, where I live, has very good solar incentives. But markets like New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Arizona, there are many, many, many good markets around the country. Do you gentlemen have any closing remarks?
Yeah, well, thank
you. I'm sorry. I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. And I hope everybody enjoyed it and they have any questions, I see that you have some information on how they can contact us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Tim. Yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have a project in mind in the Rocky Mountain region, Douglas Colony would love to take a look at it. Or if you just would like some more information, have a follow-up call with me, just reach out on LinkedIn, connect with me, and yeah, we'll make it happen. So, yeah, thank you.
Great. I want to thank Daniel Salmon with Douglas Colony and Peter Bonavita with Sika Sarnafil for our roofing and solar webinar today. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. You'll find all of our audio and video episodes there. I am dropping 2 episodes a week. I also host webinars like this one on a regular basis. I'm also a journalist for PV Magazine, so check out my work in PV Magazine. And with that, let's grow solar and storage. I'm Tim Montague. Thank you all for being here. Hey, listeners. This is Tim. I want to give a shout out to all of you. I do this for you twice a week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us your time. I really appreciate you and what you're all about. You are part and parcel of the energy transition, whether you're an energy professional today or an aspiring energy professional. So thank you. I want to let you know that the Clean Power Hour has launched a listener survey, and it would mean so much to me if you would go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on the About Us link right there on the main navigation. That takes you to the About page, and you'll see a big graphic, Listener Survey. Just click on that graphic, and it takes just a couple of minutes. If you fill out the survey, I will send you a lovely baseball cap with our logo on it. The other thing I want our listeners to know is that this podcast is made possible by corporate sponsors. We have Chin Power Systems, the leading 3-phase string inverter manufacturer in North America. So check out CPS America. But we are very actively looking for additional support to make this show work. And you see here our media kit with all the sponsor benefits and statistics about the show. We're dropping 2 episodes a week. We have now over 320,000 downloads on YouTube, and we're getting about 45,000 downloads per month. So this is a great way to bring your brand to our listeners, and our listeners are decision makers in clean energy. This includes project executives, engineers, finance, project management, and many other professionals who are making decisions about and developing, designing, installing, and making possible clean energy projects. So check out cleanpowerhour.com, both our listener survey on the About Us and our media kit, and become a sponsor today. Thank you so much. Let's grow solar and storage.